Hi, I'm Jason Inman.
And I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
And we both like to talk about comic books and read them, and we also like to watch television shows that are based around comic books like Legends of Tomorrow. That's why this episode of our recap show is going to be all about the finale of Legends of Tomorrow, and normally we would hop right into Easter eggs, but there wasn't any really Easter eggs except for the very final moment, which we'll eventually talk to, so let's jump right into an episode breakdown. The episode starts out with Rip dropping the team back off in Star City in 2016, but then the team soon finds out that the Rip Hunter they've been talking to has a hologram, and he left them behind. So that makes the team kind of irritated because they wanted to hunt for Vandal Savage as well. And we lead to a moment where Sarah goes to the Arrow Cave, and he talks to her father, Lance, and we get the big reveal about Sarah finally learning about Laurel's death in season 4. Now, very interesting fact, we see Lance sitting at the computer, which is the exact same spot that we saw him in last night's Arrow.
That's true.
Yeah, and I actually, when I watched the episode last night in Arrow, I was like, why are they leaving Lance behind? But that's really cool that this moment, now we know where the Legends of Tomorrow, I want to say Legends of Tomorrow timeline, Legends of Tomorrow crosses over with Arrow. I thought that this beat was done very well. Mm-hmm. I thought that Katie Lotz killed it with the performance of learning about Laurel's death. I do think it was a little rushed, but I kind of have that complaint about the entire episode. What do you think about the reveal of Sarah finding out about Laurel's death?
I do think it was rushed, but you're right. They had a lot to get through this episode.
This episode moved like a freight train.
It trucked.
Yep.
I love Paul Blackthorne. I think he does an excellent job in that role. It was nice to see him.
Thank you. I like to. I do my best when I'm talking about the time travel.
Yeah. And I like seeing them play. I like seeing them play together. I really enjoy that. I'm not super sad about Laurel's death, so it was hard for me to have an empathetic response to that, but they both gave a great performance.
Basically, we see the entire team hate their current day lives, and they're all like, man, I wish I wasn't on a time ship again. So Ray and Martin design a radio transmission. They get Rip Hunter's attention. They go back on the ship, and then conveniently they knock over a helmet in Rip's study that is an American soldier helmet, and they find a note from Kendra in 1944 France. Now, this helmet could be Sergeant Rock, maybe not. I don't know, the helmet's been there the entire season. But then they talked about the element of that when the timeline corrects, a helmet can move to a different spot for no reason.
That if something is imbued, it can move to a different geological place, which is a very comic booky explanation. So on the one hand, you got to kind of like it, but then it's real convenient that it happens that way.
But that's why I'll give it a pass, because it is comic booky. And Legends of Tomorrow is the most comic booky of the CW comic booky shows.
Yeah.
Then let's talk about another fun scene where Sarah threatens Rip Hunter's life, and she's like, take me back, I want to save Laurel, or else I'm going to cut your throat. And I liked Rip Hunter's explanation that if he had left her in that timeline, she would have died, and her dad. Which I kind of like that. It's, again, a very comic booky, Back to the Future-y explanation for the time, why we can't save time, blah, blah. He could have just been like, look, I couldn't even save my own family. There's just some fixed points in time, Doctor Who, that we can't fix, and you're screwed. What did you think about that, the revelation that she would have died?
I think it's really interesting that you like that moment, because I thought it was just TV, this is what we need to happen in this episode kind of nonsense, because we don't know, and Rip doesn't know what's going to happen if he saved his family, but we're not going to go save Laurel because of contracts and negotiations on Arrow.
He's a time master, though.
Yeah, whatever. I thought it was super lame. I like seeing Sarah be threatening, and I like seeing her League of Assassins side come out, so I liked watching that, but for me it was a really weak sauce reason why they didn't go and do her thing at the same time.
I thought it was a powerful scene. Haha. So the team tracks down Hawk Girl to 1944, they save her, then she gets lost, then they save Hawkman, and then Firestorm touches a rifle and finally transmutes for the first friggin' time in CW history, which made me so happy. But then they learn about this crazy plan that Vandal Savage is taking 3 meteorites from different time periods, and he's gonna sprinkle them with a little hawk blood. It's gonna activate some Thanagarian powers and let him go back to ancient Egypt and restart the whole timeline. Now, this whole episode is about restarting things a lot. This was like the ultimate Groundhog Day of time travel, which I liked at first. But then as we progressed through the episode, I was just getting actually really confused. And I think it's kind of a show that they didn't quite know what they were doing, I don't think, because there's a line in the episode where Sarah says, oh, I guess we just don't care about the timeline anymore.
Yeah, I thought that line was super funny. Like, to me, that's the writers being like, "This is the script we have, so here you go."
I think it's again being just like, I imagine this discussion happening in the episode. So ask me about how the meteorites jive together in the timelines.
All right, so how are the meteorites going to jive together in the timeline?
Comic books!
Yeah, basically.
Write that in the script, Johnson.
Comic books. Because this is how you write a play script, a TV script.
There was a little fun scene where Vandal Savage got to meet himself back in the 1950s and talk to himself and tell himself about the plan. And then we go to the team splitting in two. So we have one team taking out Vandal Savage in 2021. We have one team taking out Vandal Savage in the 1950s. And then we have one team taking out Vandal Savage in 1975, back in the second episode of the series when we're selling the nuclear bomb. It leads to an epic fight throughout multiple time periods where every team gets to kill Vandal Savage. But I actually thought that the Sarah fight, her fighting Vandal Savage by herself, because Firestorm just flew away and didn't come back.
Did stuff.
I thought that was the best fight. What did you think about this really quick cutting throughout timelines fight scene at the climax?
Well, for me, Katie Lotz' fights are always the best because she is her own stunt double, and she's the one actually doing the fights. It's the same reason that Stephen Amell is the best one to watch fight on Arrow. I think that the editing, it was really fun, and it gave you a real sense of urgency that I think the rest of the episode kind of told you about, but failed to actually impart into the narrative. And
I thought it was a way that this show was like showing its differences from the other two. That like, oh, we can have a climax across multiple time periods.
Yes, which is really cool. But I do think that you can definitely tell from those particular fights who is a stronger physical actor and who is not. And definitely Katie Lotz getting to shine was a great time.
But you have to admit that Heatwave and Ray Palmer probably had it the easiest, because all Heatwave has to do is hold his gun, and then Ray Palmer is just like, blast, 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 blast.
But there's a scene toward the end where the two hawks, they jump off of a building.
During that fight?
During that fight, yeah, right towards the end. And you can tell just by their physicality which one of them is a little bit more comfortable doing work like that, because it is the two actors and not their stunt doubles.
Indeed. So the teams kill Vandal Savage in every time period, and then what happens is that one time period we destroy the meteor by transmuting it into water. Firestorm does that. Then the atom, he shrinks it, and then in 2021 we find out that there's nothing we can do to stop the meteorite. It's gonna blow up. Rip takes it to the sun. He's like, I'm gonna fly it into the sun, team.
They are all so willing to die on this show.
And then he has a weird dream about his family, which I actually kind of liked. I liked the weird dream about his family. I thought it was a very touching moment. Of course, we all knew it was a dream because they're dead.
Yeah.
So he's flying this meteorite into the sun after his dream of his family. Gideon tells him that, hey, I don't want to die yet. And because of Gideon, she's able to save the day. We go back to the team, and Rip is like, hey, I need some help protecting the time stream, because remember when we destroyed the Time Masters last episode? Yeah, that happened. And basically the whole team is now Time Masters, which I like, because one, it kind of sets up the similar like comic books of the Linear Men and the series Time Masters. And also I loved the line earlier in Sarah's awesome fight where Vandal Savage was like, aren't you a little late? And she's like, I think she says,
a Time Master is never late.
Nor is she early.
She's totally quoting Gandalf in that scene.
I thought that was really, really cool. And we got an especially long epilogue. So let's tell you about that.
All right.
Basically, Sarah cries over Laurel's grave. Martin Stein realizes that Trivial Pursuit is really boring. And Rory gets to have a really nice scene in the past in 2013 in Central City, where Rory tells Captain Cold he's the best man he ever knew. I thought that was the most emotion we've ever seen from Heatwave.
Oh, well, yeah.
And I thought Dominic, I can't remember. Dominic Purcell carried that performance quite well.
I was actually, when that scene started, because you can kind of tell what it's going to be, I was really worried that it was going to be CW shows, they tend to tell you their emotions rather than showing them, and that doesn't always play really well, especially with two tough guys, but I thought that he handled it with such truth and such subtlety that you were like, oh, Heatwave, you make my heart hurt.
And I like the moment where Rip said that we can always bring you back to this moment.
And he says no.
So the team is about to hop on the Wave Rider if we go to their Season 2 mission, and the Hawk Girls, Hawk Girl and Hawkman decide to leave. Woo! Thank God. And suddenly another Wave Rider shows up, and Rex Tyler, our man, says, I'm from the Justice Society of America. You cannot get on that ship. You're going to die.
Well, first he dramatically takes off his hood.
Yes, because Our Man wears a hood. I was surprised by Our Man, and I was surprised that the next season's going to be the Justice Society of America.
Yeah. Well, I know everybody kind of thought that he was going to play Booster Gold, ourselves included, and when the time
And
ship...
there were some rumors about Alan Scott as well.
Yeah, and then when the time ship showed up, I was like, oh, maybe it is actually Booster Gold, and everyone else was lying.
The sad thing is about, like I said, we talked about last week, because of the Booster Gold movie, I think we lost all chances.
Yeah.
I'm intrigued by this choice. I'm intrigued that he knows all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder what this means for the season, since he's like, you can't get on that ship. So I really, really, really don't know. I liked his costume. I thought he looked good. This has me intrigued for next season.
Definitely. I thought he had a great presence for the 3 lines that he read. I don't know squat about Our Man, but he looked really cool. So I think that it's going to set up a really interesting new dynamic, and it's going to be a shift to not have Rip be in charge if they're going on Our Man's wave
He's
rider.
knowledge of the future.
Yeah.
All right, so let's hop into the ratings of from 1 to 5 dead Captain Coldheads, 1 being good, 5 being the best. What would you rate the finale called Legends of Tomorrow?
I would rate
Legendary.
I would rate the finale 3. I'm going to give it 3 Captain Coldheads.
Why?
Because it was kind of a mess. Like we said earlier, it moved really quickly, but because of that, we didn't get to dwell on any of the more meaningful beats. And then we glossed over some stuff that really should have been explained a little bit more. I just think there are better episodes this season. That's it. So how about you?
I'm going to give it 4 Captain Coldheads. Now, I think I am giving that because of the width of the season.
Yeah.
I do think that this episode had too much in it, and I kind of wonder if we should have maybe had 17 episodes instead of 16, and that this should have been split apart too.
Yeah.
Like into 2 parts.
I think it should have.
Because imagine if like a lot of the battle was up until we learn about the meteor, and that's the cliffhanger.
Yeah.
Like the cliffhanger is Vandal meeting himself, and then the second episode's all about like, we gotta fight Vandal. That's that song.
Exactly like that.
But I think I'm gonna give it a 4, simply for the fact that they pulled off a near perfect season of this show that really shouldn't work. This show should not work at all, and it's fun.
The premise of the show is kind of, for TV, it's kind of goofy, but it worked
and
so
it
well.
Shouldn't work, but it did, and so that's why I'm going to give them a 4 for the overall season, because I think they pulled it off. And on that note, guys, this is it for the Legends of Tomorrow recap show, but next week, what we're going to do is a video where we're going to talk about what we want to see in Season 2 of Legends of Tomorrow. So we're going to throw out stuff like, these are some Easter eggy characters that we'd love to see, like Sergeant Rock, like Jonah Hex. This is what I think maybe the Justice Society of America is going to be, and I have a feeling that they're going to carry on like all the other CW shows and kill off a character every season. So we're going to make our predictions for who dies next season, and this will be interesting and fun because, again, we have like 4 months until we're going to see the season.
Yeah.
So like, we're going to be way off there and way wrong. So we want you to let us know in the comments, what are your theories? What's a character you want to see next season in Legends of Tomorrow? And who do you think is going to die? And what do you think Justice Society of America is going to be all about? So that's what you need to do. And before you do all that, you need to click on this button right here and support us on patreon.com. Get all that extra sweet Geek History Lesson, our podcast, every week on iTunes. Goodness. And that's right. I'm Jason Inman.
I'm Ashley Victoria Robinson.
Hop in your time ship. We'll see you next week. And it's all cool, baby, because Captain Cold is dead. Oh, sad.
So sad.
Oh, Season 2, Our Man. See you later.